So we're back with another episode of the 4.0 Impact Series. I'm Leighton Stevens, co-founder 4.0 and lead recruiter. Today, I'm delighted to be here speaking with someone I've tried to get on the podcast for a while, actually. And coincidentally, our paths crossed at a Sifted Sessions event in Berlin a couple of months ago. So I'm delighted to be here today with Firas Khalifeh, CEO and founder of Berlin-based climate tech company called Carbon Mobile. So look, firstly, Firas, thanks very much for jumping on this.
Thanks a lot, Leighton. Thank you. I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, look, excellent. Well, look, as I alluded to at the beginning of this, we had the pleasure of meeting at a Sifted event a couple of months ago in Berlin. We were actually in a breakout session. We'd spoken before that, but this was a real opportunity for us to, make a proper introduction. And, when I heard about your story and you really brought Carbon Mobile to life and the whole genesis of the business, I just had to get you on. So look, if we could just jump into it. Just give us a brief introduction, if you would, Firas.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as I said, we met a couple of, I think 2 months ago, at Sifted event.
Yep.
Mainly talking about the migrant entrepreneurs in Germany, which part of my background as well. So yeah, my name is Firas. I'm CEO and founder of Carbon Mobile. I'm originally from Syria, studied computer science, moved to Dubai, lived there a couple of years, moved to Germany, and also lived for 2.5 years in China for production purposes.
Well-traveled.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, a bit diverse, like seeing a couple of continents, and recently being in the US as well, more actively. So it's kind of privileged that working on a startup that requires you to travel around and do stuff, especially on the hardware sector, the stuff that we're doing. So yeah, my background mainly started in software, working with different software companies, and then transitioned slowly to prototyping, working with electronics, and then moving to start studying mechanical engineering and material science on my own, with a passion on how to use advanced carbon fiber composites in electronics devices, and came up with a curiosity that why nobody did that before, and how come we don't have devices that made out of these superior materials that we see it on space, automotive, aerospace, and all these advanced applications. And we really started out of curiosity, being a complete outlier, put all my money and my savings into the project and started this curious journey.
But you bootstrapped initially?
Yeah, we started bootstrapping, and then got few friends, angels, who actually believed in the project. Yeah. And what I'm trying to achieve at that time sounded too crazy to achieve. Like building a smartphone, we wanted to build a smartphone made with carbon fiber. We know if we managed to build that, we were able to achieve any other type. And we realized that there is a huge amount of issues related to building carbon fiber related electronics products. And that's what we managed to achieve. So our company managed to build the world's thinnest and lightest carbon fiber smartphone.
We go.
And also the most sustainable smartphone ever, by using the least amount of metals and the least amount of plastics, and using instead carbon fiber composites. We achieved these results. And this is applicable for all type of consumer electronics and also all type of connected devices. So imagine a super light laptop that you can carry, or tablet, electric vehicle with much lighter materials that are able to have mileage, or satellites that are able to send them to space that are much lighter, which will be much more cost effective. So that's really where kind of the journey that we are envisioning on. But also we tapped into a huge e-waste disaster issue that I start to learn about in the first 2 years during the project, and really realized that we need to make the right choices in terms of what material we want to choose, what can we do, and really not replacing current world problems with a new material that can be a new problem. So really we made conscious choices about which type of materials we want to introduce, and kind of putting the new future standard, we call it internally, on how future standard devices would look like, not only for Carbon Mobile, but also for the industry. And we are now in the business of licensing our technology to others.
Right.
Yeah, during the project, we hit the nail on, like very, very unique and strong IP on how to use carbon fiber composites in electronics devices. We realized after 3.5 years in the project that there have been some major issues why we didn't see this happening before in the industry.
Okay.
And that forced us into trying to solve those problems. And like, you know, as a startup, you have to do them. For big corporates, they can just drop the project and they keep the revenues. But for us, like really a survival mode kind of thing. And I can tap into that a bit more about how we did things.
Okay, so yeah, you know, thanks for that. That's a, you know, it's you know, quite a good overview. But I'm quite interested to circle back and to talk about the climate issue. As you know, 4Zero, we specialize in helping, you know, early stage climate ventures scale. Quite often it's software, product. We've dabbled in a bit of hardware, but e-waste, you know, look, it's a massive problem, but I feel as though it's often underreported. You know, I don't think that general public, you know, truly appreciate the level of you know, of e-waste or cyber waste as they call it in the States. So could you kind of give us some more info around that?
Yeah, sure. Like really, e-waste become one of my first missions, even personally, not only at Carbon Mobile, to try to tackle. According to the UN, it's the fastest growing waste stream ever, and it's just growing exponentially because like not only the consumerism that we have in electronics is extremely high, but also the type of the categories of products that are entering this e-waste are increasing. So now you have like not only smartphone, laptop, appliances, but also you have AR, VR, and you have more products coming in.
Yep.
At the same time, you might consider any type of connected device and a part of e-waste at the end of the waste stream. For example, an electric vehicle has electronics, antennas, battery, a satellite, e-bike, scooter, e-scooter, all these type of products. They're considered e-waste. And because you usually need to treat the electronics part and the mechanical parts separately. And this is a very important problem. Now, of course, like CO2 emissions is one of the highest problems that we have worldwide. And that's what everyone being kind of aware of and targeting as well. The plastic pollution also, a lot of people being aware of. Yes, e-waste is not like the highest topics for many. And even when we talk with VCs, they have mandates to tackle CO2 emissions targets.
Yeah.
And they're not aware at all of e-waste. And I have some like my peers, founders who are in the e-waste sector. We also talk about the same topics, that like awareness on e-waste and how like important to tackle that as soon as possible. There's very lack of knowledge on that aspect. So yeah, we made it our mission and we're working on that. And gladly, we always like find the right network tackling e-waste between Europe, US, and Asia as well. On the founder level, VC, and also NGOs, different aspects, all the way to from the OEMs of the brands, and all the way to recycling, and also from the consumer sector, they start to be aware of that.
Understood. So the reality is that people are not going to, I say the general public, people are not necessarily going to consume less. If anything, the data suggests they're going to consume more. You know, I know we've all been guilty of wanting the latest iPhone or wanting the latest MacBook, etc. And I'll be honest, you know, quite often we don't really think about, you know, once that, what happens to it? Is it recycled? Are the components, you know, recyclable? Are they, you know, can you make it circular? So what you are kind of pioneering at Carbon Mobile is this idea of utilizing a completely different material instead of so replacing, for instance, plastic, or replacing metal in a smartphone, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of problems here that we can to set the scene. There's three parties: the consumer, the industry, which is the manufacturers, and the climate and the planet, which is represented by the recycling sites, right? Yep. So you need really to satisfy the three parties. If one of them is broken, then the whole, you cannot have a good circle. And usually the ones that are satisfied mostly are the consumer and the industry. And we deprioritize that what's happening at the recycling side, more like, hey, let them handle that problem. And so usually it's not only cost related, it's definitely cost related, but it's not only that, is that the products that we are using today are becoming more and more superior, waterproof, IP68, all this kind of stuff. And speaking about smartphone, laptop, and all type of products. And what's happening here with all these products is that they're becoming extremely hard to tear down. And that's a very important step for end-of-life recycling. They're attached with a lot of glues, and they're using also a lot of materials. Just think about why AR and VR didn't adopt yet. Everyone talked about metaverse, but that didn't happen. It's simply because those products are very bulky and heavy.
Yep.
So you need really to rethink this, try to readdress it in a way that's really having a fresh mindset and looking at more like with the first principle thinking approach. Go back to the whiteboard and redesign product from ground up to be recyclable, and also to use least amount of materials. So here we pioneer two concepts, and the two concepts also supplied by also a new type of materials, which is advanced carbon fiber composites to replace metals and plastics. And we approach two things, which is lightweighting and dematerialization. So lightweighting is try to replace materials with much more lighter material without compromising the product. Right. Dematerialization is looking at products and try to look at different components inside and say, wait a minute, can we merge those? Can we just put those together and make one single component instead? Right. And that's very important, because you will end up not only with a much, much lighter device, but that means also you have, like reporting 2021, 59 million tons of e-waste being generated. And only
15, did you say 59 million?
Yeah, 59 million tons of e-waste being generated. And only 70% be recycled. I cannot remember the figures of 2022. However, just imagine if you were able to replace that, like same exact e-waste, but made with much, much lighter materials and much less materials and much less complex designs. That will get you a footprint that are much less in mass and volume. Yep. So instead of 59 million tons, we estimate that it will be 30% less at least. Right.
Well, and that's by switching out some components with like a different material, i.e. Carbon composite.
Exactly. Reduce the amount of metals, reduce the amount of plastics, and try to use carbon fiber composites. That will get you much lighter mass and much less volume mass, and also will help you to have an increased recyclability potential, because you will be able to easier tear down those products as well. And that's like, we try to master that path, and we try to help other OEMs to license out our technology to them, but also to give them the design guides on how to make those products easier to tear down, but without compromising the consumer and not compromising themselves by having an inflated cost that will make them less competitive to their peers.
So you're in order to attack this at scale, you can't go in and sell a product that is 30% higher than it would cost just to use metal, because it then becomes commercially, it's not viable, right, for these manufacturing companies. Okay, look, yeah, really interesting. And look, I knew the e-waste number was big. I didn't quite realize it was as much as that. And I know that's slightly old data, so it stands to reason that that's going to be, that's going to be much, much more 22, 23. Look, interesting, Firas. I think I'd like to just jump on now a bit about the business. So my understanding is you're Berlin-based, but you're taking this very much global. So you've got offices in the Bay Area, China. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We currently based headquartered in Berlin.
Okay.
We tend to continue to have R&D done here. Germany is one of the best places for, especially material science, mechanical engineering, the best universities and talents available here. So we continue to do so. On the other side, client base that we mostly working with are based mostly in the US, in the California area, where all the engineering head offices are based there. Even the like Korean, Japanese companies, they will be having representation there. And on the manufacturing side, we have like our partners, contract manufacturers, and so some of the material manufacturers based in Asia.
Okay.
Mostly Southeast Asia, parts of China, Taiwan, and some other places. So we have our support team, quality control, and production managers sitting there. And while in the US, we have like application engineering, business development team working there with mainly R&D related stuff based in Germany.
Impressive. So a very much a global. Yeah, a global scale up. So so Carbon Mobile was you established it in 2018.
Yeah, we started 2018, and it took us a couple of years in stealth mode, like working on this product and the technology until we mastered it. Took it all the way from prototype to product to mass production, and eventually we have an official launch and shipped it in stores according to like very high standard, very competitive one as well in 2021. And that was magical time because we started not only received like some major awards and great media traction, but also we start to realize that although we know that we have very strong IP, that we solved this problem, and we are the very first company to have advanced composites in this sector, electronics. But we start to have some major OEMs, major brands approaching us. Some I cannot mention the names here, but we realized that actually everyone was trying to work in this problem. We have seen some patent filing on some of them, but we didn't know how eager they are to really switch from what was in the 90s, like plastic related, to early 2000s to be like metals, product structures. And like this has been stagnating, right? Because if you just look at the chart of like development of according to Moore's law, like the chipset size shrinking year by every year, almost doubling. Now it starts to slow down, but it's still like it's always doubling up. Software is like also being going very high speed as well, but on what so-called like metal structures or any type of mechanical structures for those products are almost stagnating on a flat surface. And we really try to change that. We're being, I'm very proud to be like a disruptor and enabler in the industry for that type of new materials. And I do believe that this will be the future of materials. Like composites in general are the future because you're able to laminate all type of different materials together to have the best highly functional materials. We envision materials in the future to be same as like PCB electronics, right? An electronics main board will have a lot of stuff happening with chipsets, memory, many functions, all sitting in one single thing. We imagine that the future materials for mechanical structures of any type of electronics device do also have highly functionalized features integrated directly into the material itself. Instead of having one material, one component, it does one function.
Yep.
You will have one material, one component does multiple functions.
Multiple functions, yeah.
Exactly. And that's where you can like really stuff that we envision coming from sci-fi movies, super thin, light, transparent products. We don't have it yet, but we are kind of on the way. And it's not Carbon Mobile, it's just we're trying to lead the way for that. but we really encourage all companies to work on this. And I just wish that more startups start to tackle these areas, because we want to, this will impact the consumer experience dramatically on how we use products, but also it will have a huge impact on e-waste. And really, it's always easier for a startup that's starting today to kind of set the scene, set the rules, put the right standard in place, and start doing trials with that. And once that's successful, to sell that out to other companies as a technology.
Yep.
Versus companies who are very well established in their revenue model, and they don't want to touch it. It's very simple. Comparing combustion engine cars to electric vehicles, that's the reason why Tesla did it first. Not, we are in Germany, all the automotive companies here, they have very stable revenues. They don't want to disrupt their own business, but it comes a new player to come and disrupt it. At that time, of course, now Tesla is much bigger than all of those companies.
Of course. But great example though, Tesla as a disruptor.
We are 100% inspired by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that as a great business model and great, like this innovator dilemma, the idea that those companies, they don't want to disrupt themselves. They're a bit like, just imagine them like they're a very big elephant, and for them to move around is gonna break things and move slow. And we are like just like a rabbit, and we're able to jump around and move around, just do anything we want. And that's really the advantage of a startup. So as long as we have the privilege, we should be keep innovating. And that's why I always try to speak with other founders about, is to do similar stuff.
Yeah. Look, very, very interesting, very interesting. And like, I guess for any early stage, because you guys are still relatively early stage, right? 2018, obviously for a fairly large period of that, the world was in a really weird place because of COVID and you know, and the ramifications of that. So that would have, you know, that did hinder, or that would have hindered, you know, any company's, you know, growth. But look, and it's obviously it's really encouraging to see there's so much appetite for your product and the problem that you're trying to help fix in the marketplace. I mean, that's all you could ask for as a startup CEO. I suppose that I suppose in closing, kind of keen to hear. So I've got a good idea of where you're at now. Kind of keen to hear as to what does the future look like for you and Carbon Mobile? What does the rest of 2023 look like?
Well, we are halfway through. We have a very big project with one big licensing client that we're working with. We will be announcing that at CES 2024 in Las Vegas, January.
Yeah.
So that will be like, that's our biggest project now. And we are also like doing closing our Series A fundraising round.
CES, I mean, what a show to go to, right? What a show to be involved in.
Yeah, it's impressive. I was there like early this year. Really impressive technologies being shown. And like really I was able to meet like some very interesting people, especially in the founders doing like great products. And also we were meeting some of our clients there. It's like the place to be for all these big names. And yeah, going forward, we are expanding our technology. After we closed our round, we realized the potential of our technology, and that's really happened passively through some inbound inquiries or some like different events we are in.
Right.
It's some like EV sector, electric vehicle sector integrators.
So areas that you weren't necessarily in the roadmap in terms of to diversify into. You've kind of been reactive to interest, right? Inward interest.
Yeah, we thought that might be possible, but we thought maybe we do it a bit later. But then what happened is that we start to receive those inquiries from electric vehicle integrators and also from some two satellite companies who actually try to use carbon fiber as of not only as a mechanical structure, but as like replacing the whole system. And they failed to do that. And they said, wait a minute, if you guys manage to do it here, you can pretty much do it there. Like, okay, well, electric vehicle at the end of the day is a giant computer on 4 wheels, right? It has like the electronics, antennas, battery, and the board, and all this stuff, and then more mechanical parts. But the concept's still the same. So we thought, okay, that's something we need to do. But that's like we're planning for that for next year, and we will expand on those areas.
There we go. So expect some announcements in the future, right? Some pretty big names.
I am kind of losing you. I cannot hear you now.
Am I back?
Oh yeah. There was
a
connection
technical which I said. So we can expect some announcements then in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, I'm really excited for what will happen this year. We're like traveling to Taiwan and traveling to US. Like there's a couple of stuff delivering projects and stuff. And next year will be very, very exciting. Pretty sure of that.
Good. Well, Firas, thank you very much for sharing your your story. It's from humble beginnings. It's a really interesting and quite inspiring story. And in terms of the actual product, so let's not remove focus from the product. I can really see the use case, and it seems like sky's the limit. So looking forward to watching you guys grow. And look, thanks again for sharing the story.
Thanks a lot, Leighton. I really appreciate that, and really appreciate being on the show as well. Wish you all the best for you and also for Zero and the future, what you're doing. It's really, really great.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Well, all the best.
Thank you.